Oftentimes on this platform, you will hear me speak about persecution of Christians all around the world. Whether it is the Nigerian churches being burned, the Ethiopian Orthodox churches being dismantled, attacks on Christians on side of the road in Sudan, or Egyptian Christians having to bow down to ISIS and no more. All around the world, the Republic of the Congo, so on and so forth. Christian voices are being silenced, whether that be spiritually or physically. You know, the spiritual realm comes into the physical realm. It manifests itself into the physical realm. But sometimes those attacks, sometimes that persecution is a little bit more quieter, a little bit more subliminal. As I have brought your attention to Dearborn, Michigan and Minneapolis, Minnesota, Christian voices are being silent and Islamic voices are being reared up. However, I want you to also understand that that's not the only persecution that Christians are having to endure. They are also having to endure persecution by the courts of law that were deemed to protect them. I want to bring your attention to a court case in Maine that is unfolding even now, that has been brought to the Supreme Court. A district court in Maine has limited a custodial mother's right to bring her own daughter to church after the non-custodial father claimed the church biblical teachings cause psychological harm. Shockingly, the district court, the lower court, ruled in favor of the father, the non-custodial parent, overriding the mother who has primary custody. Coffee with Miss Miller. She starts right now. Relax a little bit and let's get into it. What's going on? A custody dispute in Maine has escalated into a major First Amendment battle. A mother with primary custody was barred from taking her daughter to church because the father claimed the church teachings about demons, spiritual warfare, and salvation was harmful. The judge relied on a cult expert who labeled normal Christian doctrine as damaging. That is, in fact, normal Christian doctrine. Jesus cast out demons, so we can't pretend as if demons don't exist. The problem is, a lot of times, people think that this Bible is merely stories. No, Jesus was a true, in fact, historical figure. He existed. And this is what we as believers in Christ believe that he did. So we know that spiritual warfare is biblical, but yet and still a government, a court, a district court got in the church's business and in the parents' business, okay? And the cult expert has deemed this teaching of the church as damaging. As a result, the court stripped the mother and her right to direct her child's religious upbringing and handed that authority over to the father, even though he is not the custodial parent. Now, if you are a born again believer in Christ, your antennas ought to be doing this because this is a direct violation of religious beliefs. It's a direct violation of the First Amendment. You don't see this happening with the mosque, do you? The mosque is not being attacked, but yet and still, that particular belief system over and over again around the world has shown actually what they believe. They G to the hiding people in the street. They are telling women they have to cover up. They can't be seen. But yet and still, the church is constantly being come against. And you say, well, you know, these judges, they live in the United States of America, and more than likely they're not Muslim. It doesn't matter. It's the same spirit. Satan will never divide his kingdom. They all working on the same team. Let's wake up. This is spiritual warfare. Now, when you guys hear me talk, I'm not just going to talk about the natural things. I am going to talk to you about the spiritual things, because whatever is in the spiritual world must first happen there. Then it manifests itself in the natural world. In Genesis 28:12, when Jacob seen that ladder, He's seen a ladder, and he's seen it going up to heaven, and he's seen angels ascending and descending up and down that ladder. We believe that is the spiritual world. It's more real to me than the natural world, because it happens there first. When Daniel prayed, when he prayed for those 21 days, and finally that answer came. When the messenger came to get Daniel, he told him, he said, I heard, you were heard the first time, but the prince of Persia had attacked, and he had to war before he could get the answer to Daniel. So I have to be honest, I'm a little tired of the wimpy and whininess of a lot of Christians sitting in the pews, just thinking that Jesus is still in the manger. No, he's not in the manger. He's came to earth. He did what he was supposed to do. And now he's at the right hand of the Father forever, making intercession for us. And he's coming back. He's coming back. And he told us before he left to occupy until he returns. And because the church is being sleepy and lazy and just sitting on their comfortable, cushy pews and not doing anything and being silent and complacent, things like this happen. Government overreach happens. Persecution happens. Yes, we understand that persecution will happen, but we still need to do our part. We still need to be a people that operate by faith and works. For faith without works is dead. I can see if this was a type of Jim Jones type thing where they're drinking the Kool-Aid and everybody is finna leave the planet. You know what I'm saying? I could see if there was a leader sleeping with everybody in the church. I can understand that. That's harmful. I could see if it was a David Koresh type thing where they had pews on outside of the church and they didn't want nobody to get in. And the little girl was in fear of her life of what was going to happen. I could see stuff like that. There are cults out there like that. But we're talking about basic biblical teaching. That is the foundation of the Christian faith. The court has made a judgment decision that teaching about angels and demons somehow harms this child. Well, the little girl says that she is afraid. You know what? Well, if the little girl is afraid of angels and demons, then we need to stomp out Harry Potter. We need to stomp out all these horror movies. We need to make sure that these kids are not able to go to anything to do with angels and demons. There are angels and demons all over the television. Every time I turn on TV, I see an angel and a demon, all kind of witchcraft that y'all trying to push on the people. If this mother should have authority over her child to rear her up in the faith that she believes is best for her. Now, as the child gets older, she no longer believes that. That's on her. She can depart and go her own way. But right now, her mother feels as though the Christian faith is best for her. This is government overreach at its finest. I tell you, it upsets me, the hypocrisy of it all. That they could define what is best for a child, and they themselves are lost and confused and deluded by the things that they have allowed inside of the United States of America through the government, especially in the educational system. Let's move on. If this case stands, judges could decide which parts of the Bible are acceptable. Like when the young lady went to jail because she was standing 50 feet away because she was not by the entrance. Talking about at the AB clinic, down there at the PP clinic where all the little ones are getting rid of over there. Beverly Williams, when she went to jail, and they said it was a terroristic threat for her to say there's no peace for the wicked. That is biblical. Or the pastor in Baton Rouge, when he's quoted out of the Bible about a witch. Now they're talking about cease and desist. They are trying to silence the holy scriptures. They're trying to cherry pick what we can say and what we can't say. And they have always tried to do that, especially with that alphabet movement. Catch it. Don't let that lower court, that district court confuse you. This is not the protection of a child. No. There's a deeper meaning here. This is the protection of an ideology. If they could ban biblical teachings today, tell you what you could teach your child according to the holy text, they will completely silence the church. They will completely shut down the church tomorrow. This is Christian persecution in its early stages. And Jesus warned us of this. He said they will put you out of the synagogues. Yea, I tell you that the time is coming It's coming. And it's happening in Nigeria and all around the world, that when they unalive you, they would think that they are doing God a service. And this is but a small festering. It's bubbling up. It's bubbling up in the United States of America. It's bubbling up. But it will move like a cancer throughout the United States of America. And you have the power to stand up now, to speak out now, and to declare your faith. You have to speak back. You have to push back on the enemy. You have to. But sister, this is going to happen anyway. Faith without works is dead. God hears us when we cry. When we call upon his name, he answers. And he shows us great and mighty things that we know not of. I called upon the Lord, and he delivered me, and he saved me from all of my distresses. It just can't be me and others doing the work. You have to do your part too. You could hide your minna in a handkerchief if you want to. You too will be cast out with the wicked. Lazy servant. And to Christian parents, let me tell you something. Before you lay, you better pray, because this all could have been avoided if she was equally yoked with another believer. Wake up, rise up, stand up. This was Coffee with Miss Miller, and I hope to see you again. God bless. I love you. Bye-bye.